everyone, I'm Nabilah.
Hello everyone, my name is Syukriah Binti Julasbi.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Amriena Rasyada Binti Mohd Zaid.
So in this video, our group will be presenting our analysis of Boogeyman using Christopher Booker and Joseph Campbell theory. So before we start, I will briefly tell you what Boogeyman is about. So Boogeyman is a short story by Stephen King, and the majority of the story occurs in the office of Dr. Harper, a psychiatrist, where a man named Lester Billings talks to him about the murders of his 3 young children. As for the movie adaptation, it tells the story of a young man named Tim who tries to deal with the childhood terror that never really stops haunting him. Basically, the movie is about how Tim was traumatized by the memories of terrible events that he experienced in his childhood bedroom. He witnessed his father being taken and dragged into the closet by the Boogeyman. Anyone would be traumatized seeing that. The way I see it, both the text and the movie is completely different, except for the Boogeyman and the fear of closet. Alright, so after reading the text and watching the movie, we have identified 2 plots from Booker and 4 steps for Campbell theory. I will start the presentation using Booker's theory, which is the 7 basic plots. So the first one, overcoming the monster. Simply put, overcoming the monster is where the hero sets out to defeat some kind of evil. Generally, this evil is larger and greater than the protagonist, and it will take great courage and strength to defeat. So the monster in both the text and the movie is the Boogeyman and fear itself. In the movie, Tim learned about the existence of the Boogeyman when his father was sucked into the closet. So people around him has been convincing him that it was just him imagining things, and the truth is that his father just left them. But deep down he knew that his father was indeed taken by the Boogeyman. The memory never really stopped haunting him, and he was still traumatized and in fear. As you can see, in 7 minutes and 10 seconds, the sight of a closet still bothers him. His fear of the Boogeyman and the closet interferes with his relationship with people. This is obvious when he did not want to see his mother because he was so afraid of going back to his old house. And as you can see, at 16 minutes and 20 seconds, the fear made him unfocused and his action could strain his relationship. But after his mother's death, he decided to went back to his old house and stay for one night. He probably wanted to come to terms with his past. But when the Boogeyman reappears and took his girlfriend and his uncle, he finally decides to face his fear and defeats the Boogeyman with a little bit of help from a ghost.
NANI?
There was a child named Franny who was one of the missing child taken by the Boogeyman. So with great courage and determination, he finally was able to face his fear and defeat the Boogeyman. So when he defeats the Boogeyman, he ultimately defeats his fear as well. So he managed to overcome the monster. Meanwhile, in the text, the monster does exist, which is the Boogeyman, but Billings never really did defeat it. As you can see at the beginning of the story, Billings came across as paranoid and possibly insane as he describes the circumstances that surrounds the death of his children. It was obvious how terrifying the murder is to him, and he develops fear towards the murder, which is the Boogeyman. But instead of overcoming it, he unintentionally lets the Boogeyman murder all of his children, as he admitted to Dr. Harper. You can read it in page 1. Dr. Harper asked him, "Do you mean you actually killed them?" And he said, "No, but I was responsible." So in the end, he did not overcome his fear or defeats the Boogeyman, and we can assume that the Boogeyman wins and he dies. Number 2. We could also relate to tragedy. It is when someone is tempted in some ways and become increasingly desperate or trapped by their actions until at the climax they usually die. In the text, Billy mentioned quite a few times about his principle. The first one, he said, if a kid doesn't get over being afraid of the dark when he's little, he never gets over it. Page 3. So Billings wouldn't let Rita, his wife, to put on a nightlight in Danny's room, even though he desperately asked for it, and not long after Danny died. Second, he said, you can't get overprotective, you make a kid cripple that way. Page 4. He said that when they moved Shirl, their second child, to Danny's old room a month after his funeral.
NANI?
Rita was against it, of course, but he reasoned that they shouldn't be overprotective. And one night when Shirl screamed and cried and said, "Boogeyman," he knew right away that he should bring Shirl into their room, but he didn't. Why? Because he said, "How could I go to Rita and admit I was wrong? I had to be strong."
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Pitchfork. By that time, he already believes the existence of the Boogeyman. As for his last child, Andy, he intentionally leaves Andy in the other room as he was afraid and he knew that the Boogeyman would go to the baby instead of him. He said it himself. On page 9, "So I moved him. I knew it would go for him. See? Because he was weaker. And it did."
It was at this moment that he knew.
Irresponsible father. He's so selfish. Even after he witnessed the Boogeyman broke his child's neck, he did not do anything and ran away instead, and only came back to the house at dawn. So because of his ego and fear, he did not take any action to prevent it and just let it happen until everyone's dead, including himself. It is a tragedy because Billings was so desperate to prove that he is right, consumed by fear and his own ego, which leads to his children's death. To conclude my part, I used two plots from Booker to relate to the story, which is overcoming the monster and tragedy. So let's go on with the next presenter.
I'm going to present about Campbell's theory that we found in the both movie and text of Boogeyman. First off, from the 8 steps of hero's journey, one of the steps that we identified in the movie and the text is the call, in which an adventure starts. The call to adventure is all about rooting the hero out of their comfort zone. In this stage, the hero confronted problems or challenges that they can ignore. They have no choice but to face it. In the text version, the adventure didn't start until Billings' second child was taken by the Boogeyman. Well, this is because when the first child was killed by the Boogeyman, Billings didn't know it was the Boogeyman because he didn't suspect anything. He thought, oh, it's probably just an accident. He told Dr. Harper that he didn't know it was the Boogeyman, but he did notice that the closet door was open. However, it didn't mean anything to him then. A year after the incident, when Billings was putting Cheryl into her crib, suddenly Cheryl screamed, "Boogeyman, Daddy! Boogeyman!" So, at that moment, Billings was shocked because, oh, this is what Danny said. That's exactly how Danny acted like. At this moment, he knew it was the Boogeyman. We can see this on page 6 when Billings said, "I had to go back to that house all alone. And I know kids don't just get convulsion. I had to go back to that house where it was." So we can see that he knew it was the Boogeyman who killed his daughter. That is when the call started. Billings no longer brave as he was before. So he kinda out of his comfort zone at this moment. He started to keep his boots in the hall because he was afraid of the closet. He didn't like to open the closet. And his adventure with the Boogeyman continued till the moment he went to Dr. Harper's office to let out all his guilt towards his children's death. So, moving on to the movie, the call happened on the night where his mother died. We can see that at minute 15:54 seconds around that area. He had a dream where his mother came to him with scary looking face and told him, "You can't keep running away." Something like that. Well, I'm not going to show you the scene because it's so scary. So after that, he felt like there's something wrong with his mother, so he called his Uncle Mike. And from his reaction, we can tell that Uncle Mike probably told him about his mother's death. So after the funeral, Tim went back to his hometown and he decided to stay there for a night in his childhood home. At this moment, he wasn't sure whether the Boogeyman is real or not. But on the first day in the old house, he saw the light in one of the closets flickering. Check the closet. However, he tried to be brave and check it anyway because that is the moment where he can finally find out whether the Boogeyman exists or not. And suddenly, when he entered the closet, he panicked because he thought the boogeyman will take him. But nothing happened. So he laughed and probably realized that the boogeyman is just his imagination. The second call happened. The boogeyman took Tim's girlfriend. He didn't want to lose his girlfriend, so he had no choice but to save her. He was determined to find his missing girlfriend and his uncle. For the second steps of hero's journey that we identified in both text and movie, the series of challenges help the hero grow and build confidence. Challenges usually strike at weaknesses. The challenges that we've identified in the text is when Billing had the death of his 3 kids. We can see this on page 3, where his first child, Danny, was killed by the boogeyman, and page 5, where his second child, Cheryl, also killed by the boogeyman. And finally, page 8 to 9, where Billing told the story of a horrific death of his last kid, Andy, although he ran away that night. Another challenge is when Billing had to build up his confidence to tell the truth about his children's death to Dr. Harper. We can see that on page 1 when Billings told him, "I came to you because I want to tell you my story." So, in the movie, the first challenge that Tim had to face when he was little, he knew the boogeyman real. He has been telling that to his father, but however, his father refused to listen to him. We can see that at 42 and 2 when his father forced him into the closet and said, "There's nothing in there, to 5 and you'll be alright." The second challenge is when he witnessed his father dragged into the closet by the boogeyman. Yes, we can see this at 4 and 12 seconds. No one around him believes him. We can see that at 18 and 32 when the psychiatrist told him whatever happened in that house, it wasn't supernatural. So he had to deal with this trauma all alone by himself since he was little. That's quite a challenge. And the third challenge is when Tim lost his girlfriend and his uncle Mike. So this is when he had to face the boogeyman. So to conclude my part, there are 4 steps of hero's journey that we've identified in the movie and the text. I've explained to you about the call and the challenges. Rina will explain to you about the other 2. Thank you!
The other that we found is the abyss. The abyss is where the hero had to face his greatest challenge or greatest fear alone or by himself. From the text Boogeyman, around page 8 to 9, it happened when Billing was alone with Andy at home. It was alright when the wife, Rita, was there, but the presence of Boogeyman is getting bolder when she's not around. Billing started to see strange things, heard strange things, like, for example, he saw a trail of mud across the hall between the coat closet and the front door. He also heard clicking sound or a sound like something is moving. These things shows that Boogeyman is actually at his home. These things made him terribly scared. So he decided to move his son Andy to another room because he knew that Boogeyman would go for Andy instead of him because Andy is weaker. Of course, Andy is just a little kid, right? So Boogeyman would definitely go for a weaker one. And so it really happened at night. He heard a scream from Andy's room, and because of his love towards Andy, because Andy is the one that he loved the most, he heard a scream from Andy's room and he quickly rushed in without even turning on the lights, and he saw that the boogeyman was shaking him, shaking in terror. So Billing got terrified. So he ran away and went to an all-night diner. There he drank coffee and only went home at dawn. You can see that Billing, because of his fear, he became selfish and irresponsible. Though he actually loved his son, but he abandoned him alone at the house with the boogeyman. The challenge is to either to face his greatest fear, which is the boogeyman, or to save his beloved child. But it seems like his fear is bigger than his love, and so he lost his son Andy in that incident. As for in the movie, the main character Tim decided to face the Boogeyman by himself. We can see that it happened in 1 hour and 8 minutes into the movie. This is after Jessica, the girlfriend, was missing. Tim asked for help from a girl named Franny, and from Franny, he found out that he need to go to the place where it first started in order to stop the Boogeyman. So he went home and walked into the closet that he fears the most since he was little. And the next one is transformation and revelation. After Tim went into the closet, he actually built his confidence, and at the end he finally defeated the Boogeyman. It happened in the last minute, 1 hour and 22 minutes. At last, because of his courage, because of his determination to face his fear, to face the Boogeyman, he actually succeeded. For transformation and revelation, in the text there is no transformation and revelation. Okay, comparing from both text and the movie, you can see that the main character in the movie actually is so different from the main character in the text. This is because Tim is willing to face his fear, willing to face the Boogeyman, and he actually won in the end. He actually defeated the Boogeyman. But in the text, Mr. Billings always ran away from his fear, and he even abandoned his beloved son because of his fear. And we can say that the Boogeyman won at last in the text. I think that's all for the differences. Things that are similar in text and movie is the monster, the Boogeyman itself. It is a popular story, especially among the children. I think that's all from us. So thank you.
Alright, so after reading. Alright, so after reading.
2 hours later.
Alright, so after reading the text and watching the movie.
I'm sorry, it's my neighbor's dog. Seriously.
And went into the closet.
Congratulations, you've successfully watched till the end and didn't skip. I'm proud of you.